Hi, I'm Shaul. One of the very first things you learn when you start getting interested in photography is how to freeze action. Typically, there is a table, like a reference table of different scenarios and the corresponding minimal shutter speed you need to freeze the motion of the subject. The freezing motion of subjects was an actual challenge. In any type of light, apart from full daylight, the shutter speeds you were able to reach were about 1/60th to 1/30th of a second. For example, in indoor light, and these shutter speeds are not enough to completely freeze the motion of human subjects. Not to talk about indoor sports or things that move faster. Getting faster shutter speeds was a prerogative of professionals. You needed high-end, expensive gear to reach high enough shutter speeds that was a separator between professionals and amateurs. Direct flash was necessary, but really did affect the way the image looked, especially with consumer cameras that did not allow bouncing the flash or off-camera flash, which give a more candid-looking results. Perhaps it was a bit of a cultural thing too. In the 1960s, 70s and 80s, during the height of the Cold War, people were looking for clarity. The world was a dark place, full of spies and conspiracies, real conspiracies, not like the conspiracy theories of today. And if you look at photojournalistic images from those years, you will see that everything is sharp, including a deep depth of field. Was something that was missing in the cultural atmosphere, geopolitical climate of that era. Nowadays, the ethos is a very thin depth of field, but we are living in more individualistic times. We are all a little bit autistic. When auto exposure was introduced into cameras, I think it was somewhere in the early 1980s. Some manufacturers implemented it by shutter priority, which gave the photographer two advantages. The first advantage was setting the minimum shutter speed that allowed for frozen motion, which is quite obvious. But the second was when you shoot with shutter priority, you always get the maximum depth of field that the available light allows for, which was another advantage, mainly because manual focus was also a challenge. The focusing aids of that time, a split prism or rangefinder, were not good enough for accurate focusing at large apertures. From my own experience, you rarely got a critically sharp image at any aperture wider than f2, maybe even f2.8. You had to rely on the focusing aids as well as on depth of field that gave you some error margin for correct focusing. Nowadays, cameras have become more sensitive to light, and freezing motion stopped being a great challenge. You can easily do it in most light conditions. Even phone cameras have their own algorithms that prioritize the freezing of motion. But it is still considered a necessity. Like a good photo, in the technical sense, has to be completely devoid of motion blur. My question is why? When we photograph moving things, even in people photography, like street photography or dirty photography, which is what I like to call what I like to do. We are documenting life, and life is always in motion. To convey it in an authentic manner, you need to show this motion. You need to be candid. So I don't see anything wrong in some motion blur. Of course, it can't be too pronounced. A little bit of motion blur is something I always look for. Very sharp images of people, especially, always give me the impression that the image is posed. Like this is not how life is. We are not made of plastic. We breathe. We move. It seems wrong to me. I much prefer some signs of motion in the picture. A little bit of motion blur in the hands or in the environment. It's what life looks like. No one ever told me they don't like an image I made because there is a little bit of motion blur. It's well-rooted characteristic in the tradition of photography. When there is not enough light, images look gritty and a little bit blurred. On the other hand, if an image shot in low light appears perfect, like noise-free, very sharp, then it looks unreal. It looks like a tableau, like it's all been posed and preconceived. So I am an advocate of having some blur, some motion blur in the images. To achieve it, I always look for shutter speed of about 1/80th, 1/50th, 1/60th of a second is even better. But when you shoot in good light conditions, it's a little bit hard to achieve. Sometimes because of light constraints, I have to shoot people at a tenth of a second or even a fifth of a second. and the images produced are still usable to a large extent. It's a matter of preference, of course. If you like your images to be completely sharp, it's fine, of course. Most people will prefer your images if they are sharp. But for this specific genre of documentary photography, I think that there is nothing wrong with motion blur in the scene.